Welcome, everyone. Today, we dive deep into the topic of technology and its impact on our children. We are joined by Dr. Chetan Ginigeri, Program Director Pediatrics, and Dr. Sushma Gopalan, Child Life Specialist and Psychologist from Aster CMI Hospitals. It's a pleasure to have you both.
Thank you, Ranjana, for having us here.
Thank you, Ms. Ranjana, for having us.
Diving straight into the discussion, Dr. Chetan, let us start with your perspective on technology's role in our children's lives today.
So, as you all know, technology has become all pervasive into our lives and also into our children's life as such. And from a very young age, children are getting exposed to screens and technology in various other forms. Apart from being a convenience, today it has become a double edged sword where not only children use technology for education and studying, but then also digital devices have become an escape route and also unpaid babysitters, which parents use to keep the children quiet and manage their energy levels. So on one end, technology has really enabled a lot of things for the human race, but in last 20 years, we are starting to see now the ill effects of technology into the children's lives because the whole brain is getting hardwired differently. And we just need to be aware about it as parenting generation, as pediatricians, as psychologists, and try to see what safe boundaries we can build around children and the use of technology in their lives.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. And this brings me to the center stage of the topic. Dr. Sushma, how does screen usage in general influence children's psychological and emotional development?
Yeah, so screen usage to any level is a little bit hazardous. So when we are talking about mental health, the first thing that strikes is addiction, the screen addiction. So excessive screen time, be it in the form of playing or social connection, or even in terms of nowadays education, where everything is uploaded on the online platform. There's anxiety and depression. There is sleep disruption. It hampers the cognitive development where attention span, learning opportunities is hampered, social development. So for children, for any developmental age, the main criteria is the social development. So social interactions get affected, cyberbullying happens. So what happens is all this leads to an increase in aggression where their coping skills are being hampered. It is being compromised. So any sort of resilience, problem solving skills, maintenance of mood, even basically maintaining an interpersonal and intrapersonal connection becomes a problem. So when children are faced with all these challenges which they are not supposed to be facing at that point of their life, it becomes very hazardous because they are lost. And no matter whom they connect to, each one is going through the same problem. So they have nowhere to turn to for help.
What you're implying is that it's affecting their social interaction skills. So basically, the social impact and psychological impact is just too high because of
Yes,
these.
yes, social, psychological, emotional, their entire psychodynamics is being impacted.
No, that's really insightful. Um, but what about the physical development? Does it have an impact on it, Dr. Chetan? If you may elaborate on that.
Yeah, the whole way our children are spending their childhood nowadays has completely changed. So, as I told before, digital devices have become unpaid babysitters in young age. When children need to be exposed to more touch and feel toys, more nature, more activity driven childhood, now it is cooped up in a four walls of a room, staring at the devices. What we tell generally parents is that for a well all round development of children, all the five senses have to get equally stimulated. That is hearing, vision, touch, smell, and taste. And an overstimulation, which the digital devices do of the hearing and vision, leads on to an inadequate development of the other sectors as such. And that has a very long lasting impact on the way children live on to their adolescence, the way they manage their human to human interaction, and also an adult life as such. So apart from core physical issues like headache, sleep deprivation, eye issues, dryness of eyes, lack of activity, all these things have an additional ripple effect which children have to face and carry that effects right up to their adulthood and middle age.
Now that's indeed concerning. But this brings me to the next topic, which is how do parents recognize this kind of screen addiction in their children? So, what should parents be aware of? What can they look out for in their children?
So these, as doctors, we see a lot of non-specific symptoms when children do come to us with screen addiction in the background. They come with effects of lack of sleep, that means inability to concentrate, and these things have been flagged up by teachers at school, forgetfulness, a lot of mood swings, reward seeking through the digital devices, complete lack of activity, binge eating, which happens when they're in front of the screens. So, obesity is a major problem that we are seeing. So, again, to crystallize it, children's physical lifestyle has completely got disrupted because of digital effects. We have unhealthy eating habits because the reward centers for video games, for all forms of digital usage, and also food being used as a form of reward just goes hand in hand, and children consume a lot more unhealthy calories, leading on to obesity and its effects. Then we have the mental health effects, which shows up when children are in their early teenage as such, because the emotional regulation is not proper, and there is a lot of conflict between parents and children at that age. So physical effects, complete lack of sleep, disturbance in their dietary habits, early onset obesity and its side effects, and school behavioral issues, and then translating into adolescence behavioral issues in children.
That's very
And
insightful.
just to add on to Sir, even this the one aspect that I want to stress on is even the social communication, talking to each other, talking to one another. Peer relationship gets hampered, family relationship gets hampered because the amount and quality of parent-child interaction is reduced. And when addiction comes at any level, at any age, the treatment for that also becomes very difficult. So handling children who are actually addicted to screen time becomes a very monumental task for parents also. So in any aspect of physical ability also gets compromised in this because their executive function gets interfered, their language use, the social skill, the reading and mathematical abilities. Basically, the cognitive function and the brain function is compromised in this aspect.
So, Dr. Sushma, just doing a deep dive into that, what are the mental health implications specifically on teenage children?
On teenagers, the first one is where the addiction becomes a main problem. So the addiction and also it becomes like a defense mechanism. For anything, the screen time becomes a distraction for them. They start role modeling or modeling their entire emotional and social and cognitive dependency around the mobile phones. And the other part that especially teenagers is where we have seen increase in aggression. They get very aggressive because the coping skill is not there, emotional regulation is not there, internalizing of emotions happens. And when talk is not being there at all, and everything is online, and there's a lot of media circulation, what happens is children don't know to communicate. So
Right.
there's a rise in aggression, and they prefer isolation. They don't like to mingle with others because it takes them away from the screen time. So we are seeing children who like to be isolated. Problem solving skill is reduced because everything is there, ready made. So to
Yeah.
analyze, come up with different permutation and combinations is again compromised. They do not know how to solve problems. So there's a lot of compromising in a lot of parameters which a child at a particular developmental age is supposed to have. So it leads to anxiety, mood disorders also in some cases.
Okay, thank you for that. No, these are, I think this is what we are trying to, avoid in our generation, the next generation, future generation. And that brings me to, I want to get your opinion on how tools like Hidden Text Cat Phone can help um, in fostering healthier digital habits?
So, Anjana, it is a very challenging problem for us as parents because we have seen the pre-digital and the new digital age which is there, and children have really not experienced the pre-digital era as such. For them, this has been there since their birth, and to now to regulate it in a way, we need solutions like hidden text cat phones which are available now. The reason is because we are seeing a lot of physical, mental, and emotional issues in children, starting with simple things like speech delay. Now, children learn languages by both listening to what you say and also watching your lip movements. When they are exposed to a high speed imagery that happens to cartoon films, their speech gets significantly delayed by 1 to 2 years as such. And then going on to the teenage period where we have the other end of the spectrum called Instagram depression, where the teenagers feel not liked enough, not good enough, not beautiful enough, and that is leading on to a completely different set of problems. So, cat phones and the hidden tech solutions that you're bringing about will bring about a kind of a safe perimeter within which both the access to digital devices, the number of hours they spend on digital devices, and also the kind of content they see on digital devices can be tailor made depending on what is the age of the child, and also kind of nudge them towards more age appropriate content, not taking away the advantages of technology, which is basically an enhanced learning experience which we as a generation did not have access to. So definitely your solution is going to provide that safe perimeter within which parents, caretakers, and teachers can work with.
No, that's a big word of confidence. Thank you. And let's talk a little about the future trends. With how the digital consumption is going today, um, what should parents be prepared for first and foremost? Um, I know that you run a digital detox program, so even before children get addicted to devices and screen, how can we avoid? Uh, what should parents just stay away from?
So, as with everything in healthcare, I think one thing we have to understand is even here, prevention is better than cure. So once children have got addicted to digital devices, to wean them off that kind of an environment is a real Herculean task. So we invite parents to think through their journey as parents much earlier before the children get access to these digital devices as such. And that is where I think programs like this, where we are bringing about that awareness about the ill effects, has to reach to parents before they give children the access to digital devices. So, preempting what the child needs, understanding the overall evolutionary biology of child, how he is going to respond physically, mentally, emotionally to different environmental stimulus, including science and technology, which is all pervasive into our lives, has to be made aware to the parents. And then given them a certain lock and key system, which is through the CAT system that you are trying to bring about, and then make parents understand as to how this device is going to make their lives better and what are the definitive no-nos, and also create boundaries within which parents can give access to a specific digital content which is age appropriate, which is safe, with a privacy setting which does not harm the parents, the profiles on those devices, and also does not get the child exposed to other forms of nefarious activities and cyberbullying and criminals online. And then that is the kind of solution we would like to have as parents. And definitely, it is much better to introduce them to these solutions much earlier in their parenthood rather than trying to reverse the effects of digital toxicity which has happened.
Yeah,
That's
I
really
also
Sushma, anything?
yes, sir. I also completely agree with sir because giving something to the child and taking it away and giving something compromise will never work. So if you can come up with a technology which gives a child control plus also the parents control where there are clear cut boundaries set for the child. So even though they have the screen, but there are certain do's and don'ts that the child has to follow. And now that the screen time has the cell phones or the laptop has become a necessary evil where education system and any other sort of communication is via the platform of social media. So when children are given a particular screen time with so and so protocols and lines and boundaries where the parents are able to understand what the child is doing, and the control is in the parent at a very early developmental age, it brings about a lot of change. What happens is parents are also more confident, and the child understands limitations at a pretty early age, which sets the ball rolling for the rest of the age.
That's
We also have to understand that children are absolutely intuitive with technology, and that is not what comes very naturally to
Yeah.
parents. We, as parents, a parenting generation, have to really learn what children are getting exposed to online, and using solutions like yours, create that safe
Yeah.
boundaries.
so parents have to literate themselves in this whole digital landscape, and then also prevention is better than um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful advice. But so I wanted to ask you both something, just to drive home the point to our parents. Can each of you, talk about a case which was like eye-opening for you, an experience where you thought this is really becoming a mainstream problem? We can start.
Um,
So
yeah.
we can see that maybe post COVID, as doctors, we really had a sudden spike of digital device induced issues. So I can speak about a 2-year-old kid who came to us post COVID from extreme rural Andhra Pradesh, where the only language used was pristine Telugu of the village dialect. But this child was speaking very posh Peppa Pig English, which parents really didn't know how the child picked up. And this was primarily because the child was exposed to a mobile phone right at 6 months of age, and child used to spend 6 to 8 hours on the device watching its favorite cartoon character. And the parents were completely lost because they had never heard a language like that. The child who could not pick up their local dialect had picked up a pristine British English to speak and communicate without understanding what he's speaking. So that's in a way it looks very funny when a child like that speaks with that accent. But then we really understood how deep seated this digital devices can make an impact.
Just to add on to Sir, so we had a case where the child was 6 or 7, and parents find giving mobile phone much easier than the TV, because for the child the scrolling becomes very easy. So there is easy access to YouTube, and it's easy to pick what they want. So for them, it's a continuous activity also. So the child has seen videos that he or she shouldn't be seeing, which was scary. So the child came with a lot of fear. The child was not able to sleep. The child was not able to eat. The child was not able to drink. Was fainting, and the reason was we were not able to figure out the reason, because this had happened over a period of time and had become the norm for a child. So the child thought it was pretty normal to watch all these, and the parents had no clue, and they didn't know to check the history. So that's where the parents becoming technologically savvy and having a control on what the children have to watch is a must. Because even though you have YouTube, so many other channels, even though there are a lot of filters, lot of locks, sometimes it's not that safe.
Yeah, it's like how fish are surrounded by water, but they don't understand what it is. Our children are surrounded by technology, but they don't fully understand the consequences and implications of it. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Any closing comments, advice that you would like to give our parents?
First thing is that as an adult generation, let us accept and the responsibility that it is primarily our job to make sure what kind of technology the child is exposed to. And generally, we say with parenting is that children depend on parents for 3 L's, that is love, laughter, and learning. And today we want to add the dimension of safety. And in that specific safety dimension, we also want to add digital safety and using the technology solutions which Kid Tech is developing and making it easily accessible to parents to monitor their children, to nudge them towards safer digital viewing behaviors, and also creating safer boundaries is the way to go forward. We just cannot live a life without technology in today's times. So let us make it safer both for children and educate parents as to how to make it safer for children.
Yeah, completely agreed, sir. And just to add on to that, so the parents have to be your good role models. So they need to limit their cell phone usage around children and at least have more family time, more communication with the children and the family members. Introduce other activities like books, games, and toys so that they are engaged. More of exposure to the nature because nowadays we have lesser exposure, four walls. And sometimes it's okay to allow the children to get bored. Creativity comes out at its best when children are a little bored. They come up with different ways to engage themselves. They don't need to be overstimulated all the time. Sometimes that understimulation is okay for them to be creative. And technology has become a necessary evil. You cannot hide from it. You cannot lock your child away from it. So it is better to be safe than sorry. So we can use technology which is helping us and our families better.
Thank you so much. Um, Both of you, thank you so much for your insights. I hope our audience is able to take away these tips and actionable, insights that you gave us, and help guide their children through this digital age. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you,
Thank
Ranjana,
you.
and very good start with this. Thank you.